Let's bring in Florida Senator Rick Scott, who sounds nothing like Peter Doocy. He's a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, good to see you. I don't know if you heard everything that the president had to say, but 3 times he reminded people that the law is if you are collecting unemployment benefits and you refuse a legitimate offer of work that suits you, you forfeit those benefits. Sounds like you might be a little worried about that.
Well, first off, I think all of us want to make sure people get back to work. I mean, I grew up in a family that I watched my parents struggle for work, so I want to make sure everybody can get a job. But the president's not talking to the right people. If he sits here and believes that people that get paid more money not to work are going to jump at a job, so many people aren't. And by the way, I've asked the Department of Labor, Secretary of Labor, to say, are you enforcing the law to make sure if people are offered a job that they're not staying at home? And I still haven't gotten a response. So I'm hearing all across the country. People can't open their restaurants. They can't staff up because people are making more money and they don't want to come back to work. So, I mean, I'm glad the president is focused on the fact that it was a horrible jobs number. And I think it's a horrible jobs number because of what the Biden agenda is. The Biden agenda is higher taxes, more regulation. They're going to make it very difficult for our businesses. And on top of that, everything's free. I mean, why do you have to show up to do anything? I mean, free everything now.
You probably heard Peter Doocy mention Secretary Raimondi just a minute ago. Here's what she actually said yesterday about what's keeping people at home and why there are so many jobs going wanting. Listen here.
The number one reason now that people aren't going back to work is what you said, fear. Or they can't find childcare or schools are still closed. So we'll monitor it as necessary, but right now we don't think that's the reason people aren't able to go back to work.
Certainly, there are a lot of people who can't go back to work because they don't have child care and the schools are closed. But do you believe that fear is the overriding motivating factor, or is these enhancements in unemployment benefits that may be playing a role?
I'm sure some people are worried about their safety, and I think that's a legitimate concern people have. But what I'm hearing from employers all over the country, especially my home state of Florida, is, gosh, people are making more money not to work. I mean, back when this first started, I, along with 3 other senators, said you can't pay people more not to work than to work. That's not going to work. And the Democrats all blocked it. And they said, they're going to, the Department of Labor will enforce the law that if somebody, can go back to work, to get their job back, that'll happen. We know this hasn't happened. That's not happening at all anywhere around the country that I can tell. And the Secretary of Labor won't answer my letter to him and ask him, are you enforcing your own law? I'm glad that the president finally said it, but the Secretary of Labor won't even tell me he's enforcing the law. So I want people that need help to get help. But gosh, you can't have a country where everything's free. Nobody can pay for this.
Senator, a different topic. This is something that's been out there for a while, but more people are asking questions now about it. It's beginning to gain traction. Congressman Mike Gallagher wrote a letter to Dr. Fauci at the NIH about what the NIH was doing in terms of funding research at the Wuhan Laboratory of Virology when it came to coronavirus and so-called gain-of-function research. Congressman Gallagher saying, quote, the U.S. government helped fund research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Taxpayers deserve a detailed understanding of whether federal resources supported dangerous gain-of-function research and whether this might have played a role in the outbreak of the pandemic. What do you want to know about this?
What happened? First off, we shouldn't be giving money to Communist China. Any money. Zero money to Communist China. Number 2 is, we're over a year into this. Can't we figure this out, what happened? I mean, let's hold the WHO accountable. Let's hold China accountable. I did a bill back in February that says let's stop giving money to the WHO until they get, 1, they need to have better leadership. 2, they've got to let Taiwan in. And 3, do a real investigation of what happened here. I mean, I've been up here a little over 2 years. I'm shocked at how little the federal government will tell us how we're spending our money. This is our money. It's not their federal government. It is our government, and it's our money. So start giving us the facts and tell us how you're spending our money. Quit stonewalling all these things.
We look back into the past, and back in 2011, it was December the 30th, Dr. Fauci, along with a couple of colleagues at the NIH, supported the creation of flu viruses in the laboratory as part of research. He wrote, in part, along with Gary Noble and Francis Collins, important information and insights can come from generating a potentially dangerous virus in the laboratory. The question is whether benefits of such research outweigh risks. The answer is not simple. Safeguarding against the potential accidental release or deliberate misuse of laboratory pathogens is imperative. When you look at what he wrote back then and where we are now, are there any dots there that can be connected?
Well, I mean, what's frustrating is give us the facts. Let's be honest with us, and then we can make an informed decision how we go forward. But what they're doing over there is they're stonewalling it. Just like how is this any different than what Communist China is doing? They won't tell us what happened over in Wuhan, and the NIH won't tell us what we're doing here, how we're spending our money. It is our money. I'm sick and tired of the federal government acting like they don't have to tell us. I mean, I'm sitting in the Senate, and they don't want to tell me things. I mean, the American public should be furious with how the federal government treats them as citizens.
All right. Senator Rick Scott of Florida, it's always good to spend time with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice seeing you. Bye-bye.
Jillian?